What's going on YouTube? Today I wanted to show you how to build this modern inspired pillow box. My name is Andy, this is Cedar River Woodworking, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. We do build videos just like this one to take your hobby to the next level. So my wife had asked me to build her a pillow box for extra pillows that we had on our bed and some extra bedding. She wanted something modern because our house is a mid-century modern style house. So this is what I came up with. It's modeled after our modern gate. And if you haven't seen that video yet, I will leave a link in the description. So this build has been a lot of fun, and let's get into building it. So there's going to be a few things that you're going to need for this project. 1 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. We're going to need 5 1x2 trim pieces, a circular saw or a table saw, miter saw, Craig pocket hole jig with 1 1/4 screws, a brad nailer with 1 1/4 inch finishing nails, some clamps, some wood glue, some sandable or paintable wood filler. You're going to need a sander with some sandpaper, your paint or stain, and a 36-inch long piano hinge. So we're going to start off by breaking down the plywood. The sizes that you're going to need are 2 16-inch by 38-inch pieces. These will be your 2 sides. 2 16 by 16-inch pieces. These are going to be your 2 end pieces. 1 16-inch by 36.5 inch, and that's going to be your bottom piece. And 1 that is 17.5 inches by 38 inches. This is your top piece. This top piece, I would actually recommend modifying a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little bit further in the video. So as you can see, as I'm cutting down some of the pieces, I'm using a similar piece to mark my line up for it, just to make it simple and easy, and then I know that I'll have the same size piece of wood for both sides. You can also see that I'm using one of the 1x2s as my straight edge, and I know that the edge of my saw blade and the outside edge of my bottom plate for my saw are exactly 1.5 inches apart. So I use that and I measure 1.5 inches from my cut line, and then I can have a straight edge for my cuts. So once I have all of my pieces cut to the desired width that I want, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my miter saw station, and I will cut the pieces to my desired lengths. You can see that I'm tilting up the board to cut all the way through it. It's not the best way to do this, but it's the way that I decided to do it. You could also use your circular saw to make this cut as well. And like I did before, I'd use similar pieces to mark exactly how long I wanted the other piece to be. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing. Hit that bell icon to make sure that you are subscribed and you get any notification for new videos that come out. So once we have all the plywood broken down, we're going to go ahead and cut our 1x2 pieces. So what you're going to need are 4 pieces that are 14.5 inches long, 8 pieces that are 16 inches long, and 4 pieces that are 36.5 inches long. For these pieces that are multiple cuts, it would be really easy to set up a stop block so that you can just set your piece against it and make repeatable cuts every time. So once we have all of the 1x2s cut, we're going to go ahead and start putting pocket holes into our pieces of plywood. So your side pieces that are only 16 by 16, you only need to do pocket holes on opposite sides of the piece. You can see here that I'm not using the greatest grade of plywood. I figured that after painting it, it was going to look great. I would actually recommend using a little bit higher grade of plywood for these pieces. So how we're going to go ahead and do this is we're going to set that 16 by 16 on the face of one of the side pieces and go ahead and start screwing those in. Now every time that I'm using a pocket hole, I like to clamp it so that there's not any type of movement while I'm screwing in those screws. So if you have any other suggestions that you might want to see, go ahead and put those down in the comment section below. So pretty much what we're making here is a box or a rectangle that has no bottom on it. We will, in the next step, be putting the bottom into it. So once we have that rectangle made, we're going to go ahead and start putting in pocket holes into our bottom piece. This, you're going to want to put holes in the entire perimeter around it. Now you can see that I'm using quite a few holes on this piece. You don't need to do nearly as many holes as these. You do also have the option that you can glue all of these edges, but in my case there's not going to be a whole lot of weight in here, so I am only relying on the pocket hole screws. So we're going to go ahead and install the bottom piece here. This should be a fairly tight fit. So once we have the bottom all installed on your box, you're going to go ahead and start trimming the outsides of it. So your 16-inch pieces are going to go on your vertical sections, and your 14.5-inch pieces are going to go sideways. So you can see here on mine it is a bit tight, so I used a squeeze clamp to go ahead and pull everything into the correct position. So for the top, this is what I was talking about, how I might modify it a little bit. So I'm using the trim pieces almost like a skirt around the outside of it, and if I was to redo this again, I would actually install them underneath of it so that you wouldn't have to fill any gaps around the perimeter of that board. So once you have your lid all done, we're going to go ahead and sand the interiors of the trimmed area, because after this point you won't have a chance to sand anything inside of it. So how I started to do some of the inlays on this is I just cut a 45-degree angle and I laid it in there, and I marked on the opposite side of it of where I needed to cut everything. Measuring to make sure that it is centered, I went ahead and glued it and pinned it into place. This is where things can get as fancy or as simplistic as you would like it, so you can put as many pieces or not in here. I wanted to model it so that it looked similar to the gate that we have at the entrance of our room. For all of these pieces, they were cut very similar lengths, so I just batched them out, and as I'm putting them in place, I'm using a spacer block so that they're evenly spaced all the way across the piece. So for sides that you have exposed, you can do this. You can do this patterns all the way around it, or you can only do one side if that's all you would like. So off camera, we had installed the hinges, painted it, and put the raised legs on there. First off, the raised legs are just some offcuts that are 4 inches tall that were 4x4s. And some helpful tips on this piano style hinge is I had installed the bottom of it, and then when it was in a closed position, I'd put some carpet tape across the top of it, set the lid down in place so that it would stick to the lid, and then I had screwed that in to the lid. Now you have a piano hinge that works exactly how you want it to. So if you liked this video, hit that thumbs up and please consider subscribing. For now, this has been Cedar River Woodworking, and we will see you in the next video.